Welcome everybody back to the Nuggets of Gold podcast and YouTube channel. So I am back with Anthony today. As you know, if you watched our last episode, Anthony is a Bears fan. So we're going to be previewing this weekend's matchup. Now we are going to unfortunately not be seeing Trey Lance versus Justin Fields in this game. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starter. However, I do expect Trey Lance to be sprinkled in a little bit. Initially, it sounded like the Niners had just decided, okay, we're going to keep rolling with Jimmy Garoppolo as the starter. But it doesn't seem like that's exactly the case. Kyle Shanahan wants Trey Lance to have a full week of practice before starting him. Another friend of the pod, John Chapman, who has a big Niners show, he was talking about it on Twitter I saw, and he's like, look, and he's a person that will be very critical of the 49ers, I feel like, in the past. But he's a big Kyle Shanahan guy. He said, look, I'm not super mad at Kyle for this kind of stuff yet. However, if next week Trey Lance goes in and he has a full week of practice and he is not the starter, that's when it becomes a problem for me. So I'm going to kind of, follow his lead on that. I'm going to agree with that. I think, it's better to be safe than sorry with a rookie quarterback. And I think they want him to be in a good spot to succeed. I feel like they didn't really feel like that was the case in Arizona, and they want him to have that full week, really know that he's the starter before moving in, just because we've seen Jimmy as the starter for so many years. I think they're done with him, though. I think they're officially kind of done with Jimmy Garoppolo as the starter of this team, and it has turned over to Trey Lance, but it's just going to be one more week. So, Anthony, what do you think about this game? What do you think about the Niners, the Bears? Khalil Mack's potentially out, big deal there, but how do you feel heading into this week?
Yeah, Khalil Mack's going to be a big issue, obviously, if he's not able to go. It's looking like he won't play, and obviously he's a big part of their defense. However, I think Roquan Smith is having another year that not a lot of people talk about. So I think defensively, I think the Bears are going to be okay. We still have question marks in the secondary, but in terms of the front seven, even without Khalil Mack, there's something to be reckoned with. My issue is obviously going to be on the offensive side of the ball. And they haven't shown when Matt Nagy calls plays that they're going to be able to score enough points. And so this, I think we talked about this earlier, the over-under was 39, I believe you said. I'm going to just tell you, if you're a betting man, bet the under. This will be the under. I can almost guarantee that it'll be the under. And the problem is going to be, now, I will say this, if Matt Nagy's calling plays. So in the 4 losses that the Bears have, Matt Nagy's been calling the plays, and their 3 wins, it's been Bill Lazor. So it's not coincidence that that's the case. Matt Nagy does not know how to call a game for this quarterback, and that's what you're going to see. So I think in terms of previewing the game, you're going to see, well, you're going to tell them what they're going to see from the Niners. What you're going to see from the Bears, if they have a chance of winning, is a lot of runs, right? Very short, quick passes. You're not going to really see maybe the occasional deep to Mooney. That's kind of been Justin Fields' kind of guy. But yeah, they've shown nothing that suggests they're going to score more than 17 points this week.
So one thing that's very interesting about that is defensively, the 49ers front seven is great. Nick Bosa's there. They might not have D Ford. They might not have Aziz. Javon Kinlaw's not going to be there. So they are banged up, but still it's a very strong front seven. And every rep, Nick Bosa is going to have a significant advantage against whoever he's lined up against. I bet they move him around quite a bit. I expect to have to see a field day from him. However, the thing that has absolutely killed the Niners, because I like what you're saying just because of this, the Niners have been getting shredded on defensive pass interference, where they get into one-on-one situations. Also, this is it feels like it's exclusively on third down, and they'll bring a blitz. They'll have a safety roaming in the middle of the field. They'll do whatever, and whoever's outside, the opposing quarterback will take deep shots down the field, and it feels like, and this is not how much it is, but it feels like 10 out of 10 times it's been a defensive pass interference when they've done that.
Well, sadly for the Bears, our DBs aren't close enough to the wide receivers to pass interfere. They're blown coverages, and they're wide open, and they're walking into the end zone. So I actually might take that issue of pass interferences over what we've been seeing this season.
From the Bears defense, the secondary.
From the Bears secondary. Yeah, I think you saw it most. I think you saw it the most in that first game, obviously. But yeah, you just blown coverage, safety misreads it or whatever. There's miscommunications, and there isn't guys 10 yards within 10 yards of the receiver, which is probably worse. Is worse than a pass interference.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. The one thing I'll say is like the same. I don't know. I guess you're right because like at least like you're there at playing the
At least you're
ball.
there, right? If you can adjust a little bit and maybe knock down the ball versus getting the PI. And it's funny that you said, about the front seven. I feel like the Niners and the Bears are really kind of parallel in the sense that they've got two kind of veteran quarterbacks. Now, one that you guys are still holding on to, the other that, hey, because of an injury is probably like, hey, he's not playing anymore. But two veteran quarterbacks that probably shouldn't be starters in Garoppolo and Dalton. You've got two really talented, skillful kind of rookie quarterbacks in Lance and Fields who don't have game plans that help them be better. There's both kind of issues with the wide receivers due to obviously some injuries. Like at least you guys have Debo. Allen Robinson is great, right? Like he's a top 10 receiver, just not working with Fields, unfortunately.
I think he has a foot out the door.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, like I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded before Tuesday, and that would make everybody happy, even me. I love Allen Robinson, but like free Robinson, let him go be on a contender because he deserves that at this point in his career. But then, so that's the offense. There's all the question marks. We both have really good front sevens. We both have a guy on defense who can wreak havoc, right? And then we both have really big concerns in the secondary. Like they're very, very similar. Which I don't know if that's going to make this a great game or a horrible game. I do know it'll probably be low scoring, however.
Another thing, 2 stud rookie 6th-round running backs in Khalil Herbert and Elijah Mitchell. Because Khalil Herbert's great, and also like
Khalil Herbert has looked fantastic. Yes,
I'm very, very high on David Montgomery. I think he is one of the most underrated skill position players
100%.
in the NFL.
Yeah,
and Khalil Herbert's come out
before his injury. He was top 5 in rushing.
Oh, and last year he was top 5 too.
Yeah. It's just this year, unfortunately, injuries kind of derailed that. But for sure, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, so it is interesting, like when you bring up the parallels, because it is pretty similar. I think I think you agree with this. Now, some 49er fans right now do not agree with this. People are very upset about Kyle Shanahan. I understand. Like, I get the frustration in a year where you're supposed to be a contender. You're losing 4 straight games. And they've even asked Kyle about it. He's like, yeah, I deserve criticism. We've lost 4 games in a row. You lose 4 games in a row, you're going to get criticized a lot.
If you want any of your Niners fans to feel better, ask them to reach out to any of their friends who are Bears fans, because we will trade you Nagy for Shanahan in a heartbeat, like without hesitation.
I don't want Matt.
No, I know you would. Exactly. It's exactly my point.
So, Anthony, one thing I wanted to bring up too, and I was going to talk about this last episode when we were talking about Justin Fields and stuff, but I did and this wasn't on this channel, but I did an episode about like Trey Lance and Justin Fields on a different channel, like in the draft process or like right after the NFL draft. And I've told you, I like both these guys a lot. My big thing on Justin Fields was the biggest thing for him is going to be how quick is Nagy gone and who can replace him. And Bears fans were livid. They were backing Matt Nagy, and I was so confused. I've talked to you about it. You're like, yeah, Matt Nagy's terrible. Like you've said that time and time again. I feel like they were like saying, oh no, like it's all on Mitch. I'm like, dude, you can't just keep rolling with Mitch. You're in and you're out. Like that's a problem. Like you have to recognize, oh, Mitch is probably not going to get it done. Let's figure out a better solution than trading for Nick Foles.
I think people forget Mitch played well his first season. They won 10 games. Their offense looked good. And then Matt Nagy started dipping his hands in the, I always say this, if too many chefs dip their finger in the soup comes out tasting like, what? It's not good. And that's what happened. He started putting his fingerprints all over it. And I'm sorry. I get it. He comes from Kansas City. He comes from that Andy Reid coaching tree. He's not a good play caller. He hasn't shown that he can scheme for the quarterback. He reminds me of these old school kind of guys where this is what we're going to do. You figure out how to do it. But that's not the way. You can't coach that way anymore.
Yeah. So, what is your score prediction for this game? We're gonna take off in a second here, but what are you thinking? Because the under is low at 39, but you're still taking the under.
I'm taking the under. It's gonna be like a 19-16. It's gonna be a weird 19-17 kind of game. So it's gonna be close. And honest, I'm gonna pick the Bears, obviously, but you can go 19-17. You can flip-flop whichever team you want. That's probably going to be, maybe 19-15. It's going to be you're going to see like field goals. You're going to see, I don't know that you're going to see a safety, but you're going to see like a weird kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears have 1 touchdown and 3 field goals. So what does that give them? 16. So there you go. Might be, let's hope they can keep them, because don't forget, I think they're the 3rd worst points per game at 14.4, 14.6 per game. So they're only putting up 14 point something points a game anyways. So me saying 16 or 17, that's actually good. That's better than their average for the year. Sadly.
I'm going to go 17-9 49ers. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be pretty on either side, but that's what I'm going to go with. I think it's going to be, a low-scoring game, like you said. I think for the Niners defense, it feels like they've actually been, I think, the best red zone offense. I probably haven't been getting to the red zone very often. That's been, the big issue there. But defensively, like I said, a lot of PIs, but the Bears' offensive line is not good. You haven't seen them, be a team that can really push the ball downfield, which unfortunately, that's one of Justin Fields' best attributes. So we haven't really seen that. But I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be one where for the Niners or for the Bears, it's going to help them a lot in terms of like, all right, because they are both in theory fighting for the 7th seed.
Yeah.
We'll see what that looks like in a month, but it's a huge game. It's a very, very huge game when you talk about like wild card stuff. But the problem is like fan bases, coaches, like everyone's just kind of down right now. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you again, Anthony, for coming on. Super fun talking about some football with you. Definitely have you on soon. But I could tell the family's getting restless back there. So I'll let you go.
If you can hear them, you know what they're saying. They're saying bench all your fantasy players in this game.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Thanks,